There is one thing, a single, almost invisible habit of your mind that takes fleeting worry and turns it into a heavy, suffocating cocoon of anxiety. Tell me, are you trying to fight anxiety? Do you analyze its origins, try to drive away obsessive thoughts, look for ways to calm the storm inside? And have you noticed that the more effort you put in, the tighter it seems to grip, like a shadow that only becomes denser and more persistent when you try to brush it away? Perhaps without even realizing it, you are making one key fundamental thinking error, an error that underlies most human suffering. But today we will examine it specifically through the lens of anxiety, this common ailment of the modern world. And the most surprising thing is that correcting it is paradoxically simpler than all your heroic, but often futile efforts to fight it. Are you ready to find out what this elusive error is and how to stop inadvertently feeding your anxiety, turning it into a monster? Stay with me. This small journey into the depths of your mind might change your attitude towards your own thoughts and feelings, perhaps forever. Anxiety. The word itself carries a charge of worry, doesn't it? It comes as an undefined premonition, like a fog obscuring the clarity of the mind, like an unpleasant tightness in the chest or a chill in the stomach. We live in a world that seems to constantly throw new reasons for worry at us. The flow of information is overwhelming, and the future seems increasingly uncertain and unpredictable. The past is often full of regrets and unresolved situations, while the present frequently slips away from us, buried under layers of thoughts about what was or what will be, and what our typical reaction is to this internal or external pressure. We try to think our way out of anxiety. We turn on our internal analytical center to full capacity. We start an endless internal dialogue. What if this happens? What if he thinks badly of me? I should have acted differently, then this wouldn't have happened. I must anticipate everything, control everything, to avoid the worst. Are you familiar with these internal monologues, this internal commentator? This voice in your head rarely quiets down, unless you've learned to tame it. And when anxiety comes, this voice becomes especially loud, intrusive, almost tyrannical. It offers you one catastrophic scenario after another, painting them with incredible persuasiveness. It whispers in your ear that, the danger is real, inevitable, and that you must do something about these thoughts, take action immediately. And here, at this point where the thought meets our reaction to it, lies the root of the problem, the very main but often unrecognized mistake, which we will now carefully examine layer by layer. This mistake is so fundamental, so deeply woven into the very fabric of our ordinary unawakened thinking that we practically never notice it. It has become our second nature. It's like glasses that we have worn since birth and have forgotten that we see the world through them. So, the main mistake, which not only amplifies, but often generates your anxiety, is your complete unconscious identification with your thinking mind, and, as an inevitable consequence, accepting its anxious projections about the future or distorted, painful interpretations of the past as absolute, undeniable, current reality. Let me explain this in more detail so that you not only understand it intellectually, but also feel the truth of these words on a deeper level. Your mind is truly a wonderful and indispensable tool. It is capable of analyzing complex data and planning multi-step tasks. It is the source of creativity and innovation. Without the mind's ability for conceptual thinking, we would not be able to communicate as we do, build cities, write great works of art, or make scientific discoveries. But, like any powerful tool, It must be used consciously and for its intended purpose. Imagine a very sharp knife. In the hands of a skilled chef, he creates culinary masterpieces. But if this knife starts moving on its own, uncontrollably, it can cause serious injuries. The same goes for the mind. Its natural function is to generate thoughts. That's its job, and it does this constantly. It creates stories, it models countless scenarios of the future. It repeatedly goes through the files of past memories. And there is nothing inherently bad or wrong in this process, as long as you remain the master of this process, as long as you are the one using the mind and not the one being used by the mind, as long as you are the observer, the silent presence, aware of the mind's activity. The problem, the root of suffering, arises when the mind starts creating anxious stories, frightening films about what might happen, or when it endlessly chews over painful past events, coloring them with new layers of negative interpretations. What if I fail this important interview and end up without a means of livelihood? What if this strange symptoms is a sign of a terrible illness? Why did he look at me like that? He probably doesn't like me, I'm worthless. And right here, at this very moment, most of us make that fatal mistake. We don't just observe this thought as a fleeting mental event, like a cloud drifting across the boundless sky of our consciousness. No, we grab onto it with both hands. We merge with it until we are completely dissolved. We become this thought, this fear, this scenario. Imagine you are watching a very scary movie and you are not just a viewer in a seat. You are the main character of this movie, and all the horrors, all the dangers of this fictional world you experience as if they are happening to you in reality, in your physical world. Your heart pounds wildly, your palms become sweaty, your breath is taken away, your muscles tense up. You experience a genuine, overwhelming fear. But on the screen, it's just a projection, a skillful combination of light, color, and sound, nothing more. It's an unreal threat that exists here and now, in this room, in this moment. The same thing happens with your anxious thoughts. Your mind projects this internal movie about a possible negative future or a traumatic past, and your bodies, your emotions immediately and automatically react as if this movie is your only undeniable reality unfolding right now. You don't tell yourself, oh, it's just a thought, a curious, rather grim scenario that my creative mind has helpfully generated. I wonder why it chose this particular plot today. Instead, your inner voice, which you take as your own true voice, screams or whispers in panic, I'm failing. This is an inevitable disaster. All is lost. I can't handle it. Do you understand this subtle yet critically important difference? It's like a razor's edge, but on one side of it lies endless suffering generated by the mind, and on the other, the possibility of finding peace and freedom, which is always here, beyond the noise of thoughts. When you completely merge with the content of your mind, you lose yourself. You lose contact with who you truly are, with the pure, silent consciousness, with the observer, with that boundless and calm space of inner silence, from which you can simply see a thought as a thought, an emotion as an emotion, without becoming them, without getting involved in their drama. Instead, you become a small, frightened, limited I, trapped in the tight and suffocating prison of your own mental constructs and projections. And what happens next when you have already wholeheartedly believed in this mind-created movie? When you have completely identified with it and its troubling content? You start to struggle. It's an instinctive reaction. You fight against this mental projection. Yes, this horror movie that you believe has become your life. You try to change it, you try to rewrite the script on the fly. Do you argue with these thoughts? You try to prove them wrong. You look for counter-arguments. You try to convince yourself that everything will be okay. Or on the contrary, you delve even deeper into the details of the imagined catastrophe, trying to think it through from all angles, predicting all possible negative outcomes, to supposedly be prepared. But all of this is like trying to fight your own shadow on the wall. The more actively you wave your hands, trying to chase it away, the more actively and whimsically the shadow itself moves. You only give it more energy, more attention, more apparent reality in your perception. You fall into a cunning trap set by your own restless mind. The mind loves drama. It adores problems because through them it asserts its existence, its importance, its necessity. And anxiety is one of its favorite captivating games, which it involves you in again and again. This is a fundamental mistake, deeply rooted also because from a very early age we are essentially taught to identify with our mind, with its contents. You're such a smart boy for solving that problem. You're such a capable girl for remembering the poem so well. Or, on the contrary, what a silly thought came to your mind. Don't think about bad things. All these evaluations and the entire system of upbringing and education are often focused on the content of the mind, on its manifestations. We are praised for correct thoughts and mental achievements, and criticized for incorrect or unsuccessful ones. We are not taught to simply observe the workings of the mind, not taught to see the difference between ourselves and our thoughts. Society and culture constantly convey to us the idea that you are your thoughts, you are your emotions, you are your achievements, your problems, your history, and we carry this heavy burden of complete identification throughout our lives. And then we wonder why we so often and so painfully suffer from anxiety, fears, and worries. But the true source of suffering is not the thoughts themselves or even external events, but our blind, unconscious belief in these thoughts and our complete, total merging with them. Let's now look more specifically at real-life examples of how exactly this mistake of identifying with a thought and accepting it as reality becomes a powerful catalyst and amplifier of anxiety. Understanding the mechanism is the first step towards freeing oneself from it. First example, before an important event, such as a public speech, exams, or interviews, a thought arises, a projection of the mind. I will definitely forget all the words, my voice will tremble, everyone present will see my incompetence, it will be a complete failure and disgrace. My career, my reputation will be ruined. This thought can be very vivid and detailed. Identification is the very mistake. You don't just note, oh, I have a thought about a possible failure. Internally, you react like this. I am already failing. This will definitely happen. I am that loser who will now be embarrassed. This thought, this scenario, is perceived not as one of many possibilities, but as an already accomplished fact, as a predetermined future. And what happens to your body at this moment? It immediately reacts to this imagined, but perceived as real threat. The heart starts pounding like a drum, trying to prepare for fight or flight. Breathing becomes shallow and frequent. The muscles of the neck, shoulders, and abdomen involuntarily tense up, palms may sweat, and the mouth becomes dry. This is a classic physiological reaction to stress, to danger. But where is this danger? It exists only in your head, in this movie that you have taken for reality. Now your mind, sensing these strong bodily reactions, this storm in the body, receives a kind of confirmation of its correctness. See how the body reacts? So indeed, there is something to be afraid of. So my fears are absolutely correct, and perhaps even underestimated. And it begins to generate even more anxious thoughts about even darker scenarios with doubled intensity. What if I completely lose consciousness on stage? What if I get fired after that? A vicious, self-reinforcing cycle is created. A thought generates a negative emotion and a strong bodily sensation. And these emotions and sensations in turn are interpreted by the mind as proof of the truth of the initial anxious thought, which causes it to generate even more similar thoughts. Second example, health anxiety. A thought arises, a projection of the mind after some minor symptom. This is surely something very serious. I read on the internet that such symptoms can be of a terrible disease. What if it's cancer, an incurable disease? Identification is a mistake. You don't think, I have a worrisome thought about my health based on vague assumptions. Maybe I should observe it, or if it continues, consult a doctor for clarity. Instead, the internal verdict sounds like this: I am already seriously ill. This is the end. My life is in danger. The thought of illness becomes equivalent to the illness itself in your perception. And now you can't sleep at night. You listen to every signal from your body, interpreting every sneeze, every twinge, as ominous confirmation of your worst fears. You replay the most tragic scenarios in your mind. You imagine hospitals are suffering, saying goodbye to loved ones. Your life turns into waiting for a disaster. Anxiety grows like a huge snowball rolling down a mountain. But all of this entire agonizing drama, began with a single thought or series of thoughts that you allowed to become your reality, to which you gave all your faith and energy. You didn't just think this thought, you became this thought, you became this fear. It's like when you dream that a monster is chasing you. In the dream, it seems absolutely real. You feel terrified. You try to run away, but your legs won't obey. You wake up in a cold sweat, your heart pounding, but as soon as you realize it was just a dream, an illusion created by your mind, during rest, the fear instantly disappears. Although the residual excitement in the body may still linger for a while. It's the same with anxious thoughts. They are like waking dreams if you don't recognize their illusory nature. Example 3. Anxiety in relationships. A partner didn't reply to a message immediately or came home later than usual, looking pensive. A thought arises, a projection of the mind. He doesn't love me anymore. He probably has someone else. Our relationship is falling apart. I will be alone. Identification is a mistake. Instead of thinking, I wonder why he's late or not responding, maybe he's busy or something happened at work, I should ask when there's a chance. The mind instantly creates and plays out a drama of breakup, betrayal, loneliness, and you immerse yourself in these experiences as if they are already happening. You start replaying past grievances in your mind, looking for evidence of cooling feelings, interpreting every word or silence from your partner through the lens of your fear. And when the partner finally appears or responds, you are already so wound up by your mind that you might confront them with unfounded reproaches, suspicions, creating a real conflict out of thin air, which was born only in your head due to identifying with an anxious thought. Thus your mind, trying to protect you from imaginary pain, actually provokes it in reality. In all these examples, we see the same mechanism. The mind creates a story, you believe in it unconditionally, identify with it, and your body and emotions react as if this story is objective reality, and then this reaction reinforces the belief in the story. This is a vicious cycle of suffering that feeds on your unconscious attention and belief. But there is a way out, and as I have already mentioned, it is surprisingly simple, although it requires certain practice and a change in thinking habits. So how do we break this vicious cycle? How do we correct this fundamental error in thinking and stop inadvertently feeding our anxiety with our own life energy? The answer, as I promised, does not lie in more thinking, analysis, or struggle, but in something entirely different. It lies in developing mindfulness, the ability to impartially observe your inner world, and anchor yourself in the only existing reality, no, the present moment. Let me offer you a few practical steps that you can start applying in your life right now to gradually loosen the grip of identification with the mind and reduce the intensity of anxiety. These are not magic pills, but rather skills that, like muscles, are strengthened through regular practice. Step 1. Learn to notice a thought as a thought, the practice of labeling thoughts. When you feel a wave of anxiety starting to rise, or simply during the day when you are relatively calm, pause, gently direct your attention inward and ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now? What story, what commentary is my mind producing at this moment? Your task is not to judge the thought as good or bad, right or wrong, not to engage with its content, not to argue with it, and not to try to change it. Simply identify it as if you were a naturalist scientist observing a rare species of butterfly. You can mentally label it. Here is a thought that I might not finish the work on time, or it's a thought recalling yesterday's unpleasant conversation, or it's a thought of concern about my child's health, or even just thinking, planning, worrying. This simple act of naming or labeling already creates a small but very important space between you, the observer, the consciousness, and the thought itself. You begin to see that you are not the thought itself, but the one who is aware of the thought. This is the first and perhaps the most crucial step towards disidentification. Repeat this exercise many times a day, even for a few seconds. Step 2. Acknowledge and allow it to be present without resistance. If anxiety has already taken hold of you, if you feel its physical manifestations, a racing heartbeat, tension, discomfort, do not try to immediately suppress this feeling, fight it, or run away from it. Resistance only intensifies what you are resisting. Instead, try to take a step back internally and simply acknowledge, yes, right now I feel anxiety. I sense it as tension in my shoulders and tightness in my chest. It's unpleasant, but it is what it is right now. Name the emotion for yourself. Allow this feeling to simply exist without fueling it with new anxious thoughts and catastrophic scenarios. Observe it with some curiosity, like a weather phenomenon that has come and will eventually go. When you stop fighting the emotion, you stop giving it energy. It passes through you, without lingering for long, if you don't cling to it with your mind. Remember, you are not the anxiety itself. You are the space in which it arises and disappears. Step 3. Return to the harbor of the present moment. Use your senses as anchors. Anxiety, as we have already mentioned, is almost always related either to the future, which is not yet here and exists only as mental projections, or to the past, which is no longer here and exists only as memories, often distorted. The present moment is the only reality you always have. It is your refuge, your anchor. How to do this practically? Breathing. Gently shift your attention to your breathing. Do not try to control or change it. Just observe it. Feel how the air enters through your nostrils a bit cool and exits a bit warmer. Feel how your chest or abdomen expands and contracts. Each inhale, each exhale is an anchor in the now. If your mind takes you into thoughts, you might gently bring your attention back to your breathing again and again. Body sensations. Expand your awareness to your entire body. Feel the contact of your feet with the floor, if you are sitting or standing. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. Notice the touch of clothing against your skin. Is there any tension anywhere? If so, just notice it without trying to immediately get rid of it. Simply be aware of the bodily sensations as they are, without judgment. Look around you as if you are seeing everything for the first time. Notice the colors, shapes, the play of light and shadow. Don't think about what you see. This is a chair, this is a table. Just perceive the visual images without conceptualizing. Hearing. Listen to the sounds around you, both near and far, and the silence between the sounds. Again, do not analyze the sounds. That's a car passing by, that's a clock ticking. Just allow the sound vibrations to enter your consciousness, touch, smell, taste, if applicable. Feel the texture of the object in your hands. Notice the aroma in the room. If you are drinking tea, savor its taste and warmth. Your mind cannot simultaneously hold an anxious projection about the future and be fully, totally present in the sensory experiences of the present moment. By choosing the present moment, you gently redirect energy away from anxious thoughts. It's like switching the channel on a TV from a horror movie to a peaceful landscape. Step 4. Observe the flow of thoughts without judgment, involvement, or analysis. The position of a silent witness. When you return to the present moment, your mind, accustomed to activity, may try to capture your attention again with anxious thoughts or comments. This is completely normal and natural. Do not get upset or consider it a failure. Your task is not to stop the thoughts, as this is practically impossible for most people for long, but to change your attitude towards them. Simply notice them again. Like clouds passing through the sky of your consciousness, they come and go. Do not cling to them. Do not start analyzing them. Why am I thinking about this again? Do not argue with them. Do not push them away. Just let them be and pass by without getting emotionally involved. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a wide, calm river, watching the flow of the water. Thoughts, emotions, sensations are like objects floating down the river. Leaves, branches, sometimes debris. Your task is not to jump into the river after every object, not to try to stop or change them. You just sit on the bank and observe. You are the bank, still and steady, not the flow of water. Step 5. Key for disidentification. Realize the illusory and unreal nature of the mental projection at this moment. When an anxious thought is particularly persistent, yes, ask yourself a very simple but very powerful question. Is what I am so worried about happening right now, at this very second? Or is it just a possibility, a picture, a story created by my mind about the future, or an interpretation of the past? In the overwhelming majority of cases, if you answer this question honestly, you will find that there is no immediate physical threat at this moment. There is only the thought of a threat at this very second. When you listen to my voice, when your body breathes, when you feel yourself here, is there that catastrophe you are so afraid of? Is there that failure, that judgment, that illness right here and now? Most often, no. There is only the thought of it. And this thought, no matter how convincing it seems, is not reality. It is a ghost. Distinguishing between the thought of an event and the event itself is a huge step towards freedom. Most of our suffering does not come from the events themselves, but from our thoughts about the events, especially those that have not yet happened or have already passed. This practice is not a one-time miraculous remedy. It is more of a path, a way of life. It is a skill that, like any other, develops over time through patient and regular repetition, like a muscle that needs to be trained to become strong. The more often and consistently you bring yourself back from the captivity of obsessive thoughts to the quiet, calm awareness of the present moment, the weaker the dead grip of anxiety will become. You will begin to notice more and more space between you, your true self, consciousness, and your thoughts. In this space lies your freedom, your peace, your strength. You might think, this all sounds good, but my anxiety is so strong, my thoughts so obsessive, that I won't be able to do it. This is yet another thought you can identify with. Let me share a few observations. I have met many people who suffered from the most severe forms of anxiety, panic attacks, and obsessive fears, and those among them who actually started practicing these seemingly simple principles, not just intellectually understanding them, but truly practicing them in their daily lives, gradually noticed changes. Hypothetical situation. 1. Fear of flying. A person who was panic-stricken about flying. His mind painted pictures of air disasters long before the flight. By practicing mindfulness, he began to notice, here is the thought of a plane crash. This is a thought. Right now, I am sitting at home, drinking tea. There is no plane, there is no crash. On the plane during turbulence, he focused on his breathing, on the sensations in his body. I feel the vibration of the seat. I hear the hum of the engines. Instead of immersing himself in catastrophic thoughts, the fear did not disappear completely and immediately, but it stopped being all-consuming. There was space to choose his reaction. Hypothetical situation 2. Social anxiety. A girl who avoided socializing, fearing judgment. Her mind constantly repeated, "You're uninteresting, you look silly, everyone is laughing at you behind your back." By starting to observe these thoughts as if they were a chi radio station of the mind, she stopped believing them unconditionally. She began to notice that in the present moment when she, for example, is simply listening to another person, there is no judgment. There is only the process of communication. This allowed her to gradually come out of her shell. It is important to understand that the goal is not to completely get rid of all negative thoughts or to never feel anxiety again. That would be unrealistic and possibly even unnatural for a human being living in this world. The goal is to change your attitude towards these thoughts and feelings, to stop being their slave and become their conscious observer. When you stop identifying with anxiety, it loses its power over you. It can come and go like the weather, but you remain the deep, calm sky that is always constant. The modern world, with its cult of speed, achievement, constant stimulation, and information overload, greatly contributes to us. Living in our heads, losing connection with the present moment and the deeper essence of ourselves. Therefore, the practice of returning to mindfulness is not just a technique for alleviating anxiety, it is a path to a deeper, more meaningful, and peaceful existence overall. So, summarizing our conversation today, the main thinking error that underlies the intensification of your anxiety, quote, is your deeply ingrained, dirty but correctable habit of fully identifying with the anxious stories that your mind incessantly weaves, accepting these mental films as your current, undeniable reality, and then desperately struggling against these creations of your own mind. The key to correcting this error and alleviating anxiety does not lie in more thinking or more sophisticated analysis, but in shifting the focus of your attention from the captivity of thoughts to pure, impartial awareness, in returning to the simplicity, strength, and silence of the present moment. This does not mean that you will never have anxious thoughts or unpleasant feelings again. They are part of the human experience, like waves on the surface of the ocean, but your attitude towards them will change. They will cease to be your absolute masters, dictating your state. You will see them for what they truly are, just thoughts, just emotions, coming and going. A temporary phenomenon in the boundless space of your deep consciousness, which in itself is always calm and unperturbed, like the depth of the ocean beneath the waves. My most sincere appeal to you today is not just to learn about this intellectually, to agree or disagree. My appeal is to start practicing today. Begin to notice your thoughts without judging them. Start bringing your attention back to your breath, to the simple sensations of your body, to what is happening around you in this very only real moment. Even a few short moments of mindfulness, practiced regularly throughout the day, can begin to gradually but steadily change your internal state, your perception of yourself and the world. Remember, the power to change your attitude towards anxiety, the power to find inner peace is not somewhere outside, not in changing external circumstances. and not in a distant future, when everything gets better. It is always here. It is in your innate ability to awaken from the slumber of the mind, from the hypnosis of habitual thoughts, and to discover that silent stillness, that deep peace, and that unwavering strength that are always present behind the surface noise of your thinking mind. Thank you for taking the time for this exploration. Abide in the light of your own presence. And perhaps next time we will talk about how this same error in thinking affects our relationships. Until we meet again in the space of now.